Oh, man, you thought I forgot? No, it's actually a lot deeper than that. Sorry it's taking so long for me to get to the next chapter of Matthew. I'm not usually one who likes excuses, but I'm going to give one anyway. For me, I've been experiencing something called hypertension lately, where it's like I've been going through a lot of different stress and stuff like that. It's like higher like my blood pressure and all that different stuff. So I need some time to like do some soul searching. And yeah, it took me a minute to get to where I needed to be mentally to understand, I do have a mission at hand that God's put me on, and I can't be slacking on that. And also realizing, I'm 22, I've done a lot, and a lot still has to be done. I need to just slow down, appreciate the process. So, the last chapter we did was Matthew chapter 9. That's where Jesus rose a girl from the dead, was healing like blind people, and he finished it off by saying like the workers are few, right? So he gave this whole parable where he was saying like he compared it to a field. He said like the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field, right? So basically he realizes, big mission on hand, but we ain't got a lot of people in terms of like getting the work done. So then the start of chapter 10 says Jesus sends out the 12, right? So these are his 12 homies that have been rolling around with him. And the start says, Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who's called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. So these 12, Jesus sent out with the following instructions. So this is what he tells them to do. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. All right, so what he's saying there is Gentiles were basically people who were not underneath the Jewish law, right? So they weren't customary Jews, right? And the Samaritans, like there was a lot of beef in between like the Samaritans and things like that, almost similar to like to the social dynamic of like segregation and civil rights and things like that. That's kind of how it was like with the Samaritans and the Israelites and everything. So he says, do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. So he's trying to instruct them to gather, those who were straying away from initially where God introduced himself through Abraham, through the people of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead. So these are some crazy instructions. Cleanse those who have leprosy, which is like when your skin is falling off and stuff, fungus and junk. And drive out demons. Freely you have received, so freely give. Right? And that's something that we could take into our own lives, right? Like freely we're given, the air we breathe and, the sunlight, all these different things to warm us. And because we've given these things freely, we should give ourselves freely, right? So he says, do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey, for extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. So take in mind, Jesus is telling them to go out to these different places, and then he's telling them, don't even bring any money with you. Don't take anything with you. So it's completely on faith. You have to completely go out there just trusting that what this man is saying is true. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. And so he's saying, and leave a comment if you like it when I paraphrase, because after I read everything, I pretty much try and paraphrase it in layman's terms for people to understand, just in case there's things that like fly over people's heads, because I know this stuff is very like historical and like set up for Jews of that time to understand. So I'll go ahead and paraphrase, and like I said, just leave a comment, let me know if that works for you to follow along. So when he's saying like if anyone in that town doesn't let you in, shake off the dust shake the dust off of your sandals and your feet, what he's doing is he's allowing them to signal that this particular land, this particular area did not accept the message that Jesus wanted to be like explained at this region. By doing so, it's almost like marking that place as a place that rejected God. And by doing so, that's why Jesus says, truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. Sodom and Gomorrah, a place similar to what we have in the U.S., Sin City, right? So a place where that's basically what it was about, and on a crazier level than what we experienced in Sin City here in the U.S., it was on a level where it was like public rapes and like just a whole lot of just like things that really made God sad, to the point where he had to destroy the whole town. And it's actually because I want you guys to understand, like, this is a history book, this isn't a fairy tale book. So you can go on Google and you can see the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's still a lot of what is it, like residue or whatever, or like you can still see the destruction that God did to that place, and it's still barren. No one lives. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, I think like no one lives there. The town is completely desolate. It's like an eerie feeling when you go there, and yeah, like he's saying that it'll be worse for these towns that reject the disciples, the 12 homies that Jesus sent out. It'll be worse for those towns than it was for Sodom and Gomorrah when the day of judgment comes and God has to, clean the slate. So Jesus says, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. So right at that moment, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Like, because take in mind, this is before Jesus is crucified and killed and comes back to life and stuff. This is a guy that they met, that they see is really special, and they believe this is the Son of God, right? I'm going to keep it a buck with you. If a homie was to come up to me and then be like, yo, like, I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves, like, I'm gonna probably be like, man, you probably shouldn't send me. I'm probably not the one who's gonna go out there like a sheep, you know what I'm saying, and just get my jump murked. But this is basically what he's telling them and letting them know, like, look, like, I'm sending you out there, like, really where the action is at. I'm sending you into the war. So he told them, therefore be as shrewd as snakes, but as innocent as doves, right? So when he says be as shrewd as snakes, it's like be cunning, like think like your enemies, understand where they could be coming from, but be as innocent as doves, right? So you gotta basically watch the way you move, and that's why I've read books like the 48 Laws of Power, How to Win, Dale Carnegie's books, Napoleon Hill, like. These types of things allow you to understand how the psychology of like people's brains work, but then understanding like, yo, with that knowledge and that power, you have to carry yourself the right way with it, right? So basically tell them, watch the way you move. Be on your guard, and you will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. You're going to get jumped, all right? On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witness to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. That's crazy. So he tells them, you're going to get arrested. You're going to get jumped, because in terms of God's plan, you have to be in front of these people. So it's already going to be set up like that. But when you get arrested, he tells them, don't worry about what you're going to say. He's basically saying, like, I'm going to call you and let you know what to say through the messenger of the Holy Spirit, right? So Sounding like, look, when you get captured, don't even worry about what you're going to say, because he follows that up by saying, don't worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. That's fire. So that's something that I oftentimes try and hope for whenever I'm in a position where a lot of people are listening. Is I try not to worry about what I'm gonna say, and I try and allow God to use me as a way for Him to speak through me. And out here in LA, man, I could tell y'all, man, it's different out here, and I'm learning that every day that goes by. So really shout out my last song, Anchorman, that I just dropped. Someone left a comment and was like, hey, like, don't forget those Matthew chapters. And like, honestly, that was something where it just struck me, where I'm just like, man, what am I doing? Like, I gotta remember, like, the reason God gave me this whole platform is so that way I can be a role model. And, you know, of course, like, I can do that through like other videos and stuff, but I also have to make sure that I'm giving you guys His words, because these words literally saved my life. And I'm hoping that if they can just impact one person, or help show one person a sign of hope or anything, that's what I'm doing this for. So shout out to the person who got me in check and was like, hey, we need that gent, because we here, baby. So then Jesus tells him, brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Let's see what that means, because I'm not sure how to paraphrase that. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. So let's see what Dr. David Jeremiah says. 10:23. All right, so in Jesus' day, the title Son of Man was not as common as some other messianic titles, because again, Jesus was the Messiah promised by the Jews, and the Messiah was talked about a lot before Jesus came. So it was called prophecies, right, where they say there's just one coming, and Son of Man was one of those titles. So it says, in Jesus' day, the title Son of Man was not as common as some other messianic titles, so it let him reveal his identity without creating messianic misconceptions among his hearers. Again, he had to be as smart as the snakes, but as innocent as a dove. So he watched the way he moved very carefully, because he had to really orchestrate to make sure that his plan, that God's plan, came together, and that he played his part properly. So it says, when Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man, he calls to mind this portrayal of the Messiah, who takes on human form and then ascends to heaven and inherits the kingdom of God. The epithet simultaneously emphasizes both his humanity and his deity, while also encompassing his earthly mission. So it was basically a way for him to word it without causing alarm, without people really 100% getting it, because it only made sense after he came back to life and we realized, oh shoot, like this dude is the only person in the world to come back to life and actually like eat with his friends and then leave and ascend to heaven. And like we saw all of it. There's eyewitness accounts of it. So only at that point do we realize like, oh, this is what he was saying, but he had to, you know what I'm saying, move smoothly. This video is going to be long. Oh my gosh. We're almost done. You can see by the video John at the bottom. I hope we're past the 50% mark now. He says, the student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above the master. It is enough for students to be like their teacher and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? So again, they call Jesus Beelzebub, which is another word for like a strong demon, like Satan. And he's saying like, look, like this is what they call me, right? So how much more are they gonna call you? Because you're a a student, you know, and he says the student can't be bigger than the teacher, but he says it's enough for the student to be like the teacher. And because you're like me, if they've already called me this, you can pretty much assure when you go around talking that talk, they're not going to like you too much. So do not be afraid of them. For there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. That scares the daylights out of me. Because everything he says is facts. And I got a lot of stuff, as do we all, that like you really don't want the whole world knowing. But he says, you know, what I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both the soul and the body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care? And even the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me, this one's powerful. This one's crazy. This was one of the things Jesus said that really jacked me up. And it's probably the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. So if it ever got to the point where I'm not acknowledging Jesus, yo, these comments better be flooded trying to get me back on track, yo. Because he literally says, if you acknowledge me, I'll acknowledge you before God. But if you disown me, I will disown you before God. Now, how much that would hurt to die, be fully yourself, no longer in this body that's trapped on earth. And you're now far away at a planet or whatever place they call heaven. And you seeing what real life is like. Eternity, not dying. You're seeing what like it's really about. And then right before you get your citizenship and you get placed into this whole new way of living, you come to God and Jesus stop you. What you doing? And you look at the guy and say, man, I don't know him. Man. And then you can't even die to like forget about it. You can't even like get away from that. You have to live with that forever. It scares me, man. That scares me. That's the fear of the Lord right there. So he's talking that talk right there. So he says, do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. So let's get some clarification on that part. Because that sounds crazy, right? Jesus is saying, look, I came to turn a daughter against a mother, a son against a father. It's like, bro, what is you doing? Right? That's the initial response. Let's not be crazy here. We're not just going to be like, oh, Jesus, like, no, we need to check what he's saying. We need to understand it. So let's get some clarification, my G. 35. So it says, Christ ultimately came to earth to bring peace. Luke 24:14, Ephesians chapter 2, 14 through 17. But when people choose to follow Jesus, they will often face division and conflict, even within their own household. To choose loyalty to family over loyalty to Christ disqualifies a person from being one of his disciples. This journey ain't easy. It's not easy to choose this road, to choose this path. You gotta be a warrior, baby. It's tough. It's tough for sure. And what's crazy is he tells you that. I ain't here to make it peaceful. I'm not here to Must be sunflowers and sunshine and rainbows. I'm here to jack John up. Yeah, that's what comes with it. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This one cut deep first time I heard it. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Whew. That's crazy. That's extreme. It says, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives you a cup of cold water, and if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. So at that point, it says Jesus teaches that receiving his message is the same as receiving him. And that receiving him is the same as receiving his Father. The one who is sent represents the sender. The same reward given to the prophet will also be given to the one who welcomes the prophet. Dang. So that's the end of chapter 10. And that was pretty heavy. Hope that one didn't scare anybody away from following Christ. But I mean, he's talking that talk. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And that just shows the magnitude of he's not saying do not love your father, do not love your mother, do not love your children. But I mean, it's that whole thing. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it where it's it talks about relationships, right? And it shows a triangle. Trust me, this isn't an Illuminati junk. And it's saying that that you're over on this side, your significant other is over on that side, and then that part is non-existent, right? So it's just like this. And it's saying that if you guys try and get close to each other, you stay down at the bottom, right? So if that part does exist, you guys just travel across this and you're down at the bottom. But God's at the top. And if you focus on God, you guys start climbing. I'm sorry I'm using my tongue as an example. But you guys start climbing up the sides of the triangle. And as you guys are climbing up, the closer you guys get to God, the closer you two get to each other in proximity, right? And if you guys get all the way to God, of course, you guys are super close. And it just shows that when your focus is on God, everything else comes with it. So he's saying don't choose to love them more than you love God, because by loving God, you can get there. But this video is now 23 minutes long, so I'm gonna chop that right there. And then I don't know, should this just be a Sunday thing? I don't know. I'm still figuring it all out. Like I said, I'm dealing with hypertension. I've never gone through stuff like this where it's just stress on top of stress, because I'm trying to figure out what the next move should be and things like that. So just trying to get my feet on the ground out here in LA, or in California, and just figure out what the moves should be without putting too much pressure on myself. So that's my rant. I need to stop this video. It's 24 minutes now. All right, peace.